Hello, thank you so much for sparing time to catch one-on-one with Emon, your number one education channel. But before I get started, allow me to remind you that COVID-19 is still with us. And remember to follow all the health ministry SOPs in your country, including but not limited to putting on your mask, washing your hands properly with soap, or use of an alcohol-based sanitizer to kill the germs, and ensure you go for immunization. I know a number of people, for example, in Uganda have their own views about immunization, a number of which are myths and misconceptions. But I tell you, the president of Uganda maintains that he will not open up certain sectors of the economy, not until about 7 million of us have been immunized. And as a result, a number of us are home, our children are home, they cannot go back to school, they have been home for close to 3 years. You can imagine a child who was supposed to be in primary 5, who was in primary 3 in Uganda and supposed to be in primary 5 this year or next year, is still at home. That is too big. In my home district in eastern Uganda, in Kamuli, a 13-year-old girl gave birth. You can imagine a baby giving birth to a baby. That's unbearable. But I know there's light at the end of the tunnel. And you can play a role in that by going for immunization, by asking your colleague to go for immunization, by asking your neighbor to go for immunization, your co-wife to go for immunization, your co-husband to go for immunization. Thank you so much. And it being that my cameraman is about 3 meters away from where I am, that's the reason I don't have my mask on. But I request that whenever you are, you have it on, wash your hands properly, or use an alcohol-based sanitizer and go for immunization. Thanks so much, and as promised, today I will be sharing with you our session outline as we prepare for the main session next week on Wednesday. And please note that this session outline can change. It is not written in stone. It's basically trying to give you what our menu will look like. It doesn't matter if the menu or the food has been presented. You can as well go and ask for a glass of wine if it's not part of it. So this particular one, we're just presenting the menu, what we have prepared for you, what is brewing, what is cooking in the kitchen. And remember always to drop us those comments in the comment section that, hey, why don't you include this? Why don't you remove this? Why don't you put in this? Thank you so much. And I'll be taking you on with a description of the session outline, one after the other. So ladies and gentlemen, one of our sessions will be sexual reproductive health and rights, and we expect that by the end of this session, someone should be in position to articulate key terms under sexual reproductive health and rights, explain their bodily anatomy and associated SRHR risks, and make use of the knowledge and skills gained from the session to make the right choices for their bodies. The other session is gender and social norms, and in here we expect that by the end of the session, someone should be in position to define gender and social norms, describe the way society defines the differences between men and women and the roles it assigns to each of them, the men and women. In here, we're also looking at people in position to examine how messages about gender can affect behavior and influence relationships between males and females and their access to sexual reproductive health and rights services. Examine how it is possible to step outside these gender roles and articulate the life skills needed to address masculinities that lead to increased SRHR risks. This will take us to session number 3, which will be sexual gender-based violence or violence against women and girls, VAG. And we're looking at, by the end of the session, people or someone being in position to articulate key terms such as survivor, who a perpetrator is, violence, power, consent, and force. We're also looking at someone in position to explain the causes, that is the root causes and the contributory causes of SGBV or VAG. One in position to share about the effects of sexual gender-based violence to the survivor, the perpetrator, the children, and the community, to name a few. And also one in position to describe the cycle of violence, explain why women stay in abusive relationships despite the abuse, and establish when to respond to sexual gender-based violence or VAG, of course. And finally, one in position to describe the referral pathways for sexual gender-based violence in their community. This will take us to session number 4, which is gender transformative approaches. And in here, we are looking at someone in position to define key terms such as gender blind, gender aware, gender exploitative, gender accommodating, and gender responsive. And of course, one in position to articulate the components of a gender transformative approach, and also in position to examine, question, and transform inequitable gender norms and power dynamics into positive values that directly enhance gender equality. Remember that in each of these sessions, we'll have a session which will be cross-cutting, and that is life skills. And in this life skills session, as well handling it, we expect that by the end of the session, someone should be in position to define what a life skill is, to articulate the bridge model of behavior change, to articulate the life skills they need to know and live with oneself, know and live with others, and the life skill of making the right decisions, and finally, explain how these life skills enable one to live a life free of SRHR risks. Our last session will be inclusion. And in inclusion, we're going to help people review facilitation skills while talking to people with disabilities. We're going to define inclusion. We're going to have people explain the barriers persons with disabilities face in organizations, in the community. We're going to look at the legal framework for disability inclusion internationally, regionally, and in Uganda. And we'll also look at the importance of disability inclusion. Thank you. All I can say is I am itching to have you on these sessions. Please remember to share your feedback on this session outline. You can give us feedback on what you think we might have to add in, on what you think we might have to erase and remove. And if you want us to address some other topic, please share it and we see if we can find space for it. As I sign off, I want to remind you COVID-19 is still here with us. Remember to put on your mask. Remember to wash your hands properly with the soap, or use an alcohol-based sanitizer, or go for immunization. If you don't want to go for the jab, I'd said earlier, do it for someone. Remember, I want you alive, I want your children alive, I want everyone alive, and all of us should be on one-on-one with Amon. Remember to tell your friend to subscribe. Let them just go onto a one-on-one with Amon Mliowa and hit the bell. We're doing so well. We need many more subscribers before we have our maiden session. Thank you so much, and I love you so much. See you next week on Wednesday.